Howdy folks, welcome back to Faded Paint Garage. Got kind of a special episode this time. We're going to be installing a supercharger. Unfortunately, it's not this root style supercharger. This is just an empty case with some fake Stromberg carburetors on there I just have for fun. What we will be installing is this centrifugal style supercharger. This particular one is an older style unit that you don't see very often. It was built by Powerdyne, and this particular one is a BD12 is the model. This company went out of business or bought out around 2007. And I think they had a lot of issues with their belt-driven system, which this has. It runs quieter, but the belt, as it turns out, is not as durable as the gear drive units that you find today. This was sold under Ford Motorsports for the foxbody Mustang back in the day. It's just an entry-level supercharger, 6 PSI, 35% more horsepower. Just a nice little unit to put on a stock engine to perk things up a little bit. So that's what we're going to be doing. The fellow I got this from, I believe, recently rebuilt it. So it's got new bearings, new belt in there. I don't plan on beating on it, just a street truck. I believe he was running it in autocross, and I imagine that this thing didn't like that very much. It was probably not very reliable. So should be fine for what we're going to do. I have already upgraded the fuel pump, so it's got a high volume fuel pump, which you're going to be putting more fuel into the system. You need one of those. And then I put in a wideband gauge so we can monitor the air-fuel ratio to make sure we don't cook this thing by leaning it out. So little things like that I've already prepped for. Hopefully this thing should go on pretty painlessly. We'll see. It's a used setup, but it was a decent price for what I got. So if this doesn't work out, maybe we'll look at doing the Vortech or just a full brand new package system. So this will be fun. We'll get it going, see how it goes, and get this bad boy installed. I'm going to try to mount the alternator where the smog pump is supposed to go, or the smog pump eliminator bracket goes on this setup. So before, the alternator was clear down here, mounted off the bottom. So I've removed that pulley and I've relocated the alternator to this spot. So I had to clock the alternator. So basically just take the pulley off, take 3 screws out that go around the outside, and you can take this piece off from the center part and spin it to whatever you have 3 different options basically. So that allowed the plugs to be in an accessible spot. The other thing I had to do is the alternator had a bolt hole right here that's not used. At least I don't remember using it. I hope not, because I just cut that off because it interfered with this bracket here. I'd rather cut the alternator than the bracket at this time, since I don't know this is going to work. I don't want to commit to ruining this bracket. I can get another alternator a lot easier than I can get this supercharger bracket. So I notched that so it fits in here good. Sacrificed a couple sockets for now for spacers, and a little 9/16 3/8 drive. And then back here we've got a Pittsburgh Harbor Freight impact socket. I sanded down a little, or grinded down a little bit to be the right width. So that seems to be working for now. We'll change that stuff out later. Wink, wink. Maybe if this does work. So if this fits in there, the next thing to do is make sure the belt will work. I think it should, because that other pulley was about right here. So I don't think we're going to have interference going that way. I hope not. And then so the last thing we'll have to do is I'll have to build a bracket that goes from here to something, one way or the other, to hold this alternator steady, because it just has the 1 bolt in it now. So we'll have to make a bracket to get to somewhere else to mount that, which shouldn't be a big deal. But that's something we'll need to do if this is going to work. So I'm going to sling it on the truck and see if it fits at all. Got it mocked up on there now. I did cheat, and I put a stud in this back head bolt here so I could just slide the whole setup on there. It would hold it in place. It's a little too short, but it'll work for today. And I was struggling on this other bolt, but I was trying to put one in that was too big, so that didn't work. So I'll eyeball this a little bit, see how things line up, and I'll take the tensioner off of the factory piece and put it on here and see if it looks like a belt will work or not, and then we'll go from there. Now I don't expect this belt to come anywhere near close to fitting, but it'll at least work to help see if we're going to be able to line things up or if anything's going to work at all. This already seems bad because of the way it hits that idler. Almost like it's going to, yeah. I don't know. Let me look here. Tighten this pulley a little bit because it's going to affect things. One thing about it, if I wanted to not put a belt near the AC, I wouldn't have to. Like if that makes a difference in what I'm doing. But I think my problem is going to be is how to hit the water pump with the back side of the belt and this idler pulley with the back side of the belt. So I'm not sure. Almost would have to do something like that. And this would have to go something like this. It's actually not nearly as bad of a fit as I thought it was going to be, but too early to tell. That's interesting. Interesting. So let me... I would laugh if this belt fits, but I just don't. And I'm not getting my hopes that high. So that kind of does work. Oh, no, we're hitting a bolt there. Yeah. There, let me bring in here, I'll show you. So what I'm seeing right now, this belt is technically too small, but it's not bad. I mean, you couldn't run it, but it gets us pretty close. But what I'm seeing is the belt wants to hit probably here between the water pump and there. And then our other problem is it's going to want to hit this bolt right here that's on the adjustment for the supercharger belt tension. So it's close though. I could maybe try to reposition the alternator a hair farther upwards to better center that alignment of that pulley. Oh, which actually would also in effect raise it here a hair. I would think though if I shorten the belt, gosh, would it come up above this? You know, if I had the right length of belt, that's going to be close. So let me do some thinking here. I ran and grabbed a belt that was about an inch shorter, and it barely fits. Like I can't even get it on with the tensioner in place. Had to take the tensioner off to get enough space through here. I'm thinking if I were to leave the belt on here long enough, maybe it would put a little slack in it, but I might go and buy one that's a 1/2 inch in between the last belt and this belt and see how that works. But it looks like what I'm thinking should work. So right now, the belt is touching right under here under this pulley, but if this belt had just a little bit of tension on it, it wouldn't touch there anymore. and it would have to go down quite a ways to get to this bolt that I thought would also be an interference. Yeah, that one there. So if we push down here, that's, wait, no, I'm looking at this one. So this belt has to come down a long ways to be interference to that. So I think I can make the alternator work there. So I'm going to pull the bracketry back off and see about making the other bracket to make the alternator stationary. Although technically the alternator can barely move where it's at because it's kind of pinched in between two spots, but we need to make sure mount it solid before we run it. So I'm going to pull everything back off and we'll see about making that bracket. Here's what I've come up with for my alternator bracket. I found some material that was the same thickness as the supercharger bracket so that it should put the alternator on the same level plane. But then I had to step it out to get on the face of the plate and use an existing mount to drill a hole and mount that up. So I think that'll work. I'll clean it up a little bit, finish welding it. That should be plenty of beef to keep the alternator where it needs to be. It's a tight fit. There's just a hair bit of space on each side of it between the supercharger and then again on the bracket. But this isn't where you tension the serpentine belt. So having it in a fixed position is what we want. So I'll take it back out here and clean up the corners a little bit, get it painted, and then we'll move to the next step. I've got the new supercharger pulley torqued down. So basically it's just adding a pulley and a spacer to the factory pulley and then torqued to 45 foot-pounds. So I've got that done. So now we're moving on to the FMU, which is the fuel management unit. The foxbody Mustang instructions have you tapping into the return line down here. To identify the return line, it's the one that does not have the valve on it. So this one here would be the return line. And in this case, it's the top one up here. What I'm thinking about doing is mounting the FMU on the firewall here and tapping into the return line up here. These fittings are the same. So down here is getting kind of crowded with the alternator and everything going on. So I think I like the idea of putting it up here. It's accessible, and these lines look like they're long enough. So my plan is going to be, I've routed one underneath the intake here that'll go into the line going out. And then now I'm trying to figure out how this line here I'm going to have going to the line going that direction. The one going that direction, which is this line here, needs to bend around and go back in like that. I can't really do that going underneath the intake and coming back into that. So I'm going to have to come out here and do something like that. I'll still have plenty of clearance around here. I just got to watch out for the throttle, make sure we're not getting into the way of anything. Something else to note is these are calibrated for the size of injectors that you have. So these are, the stock ones. So what I found is it needs to be calibrated 12-1. The kit, when I bought this, it comes 4-1. So I had to buy a kit that replaces the diaphragm, the disc inside of here. And I've already done that. And I went ahead and paint penned it so I can remember that down the road of what that is in case we change things up later on. So I'm going to keep messing with these lines here and see if I can get them routed. And then once those get plugged in, then I'll work on actually mounting this. I just have it zip tight up here because I'm not positive this is going to work yet. Don't want to commit to that. So we'll get the lines connected. If that works, then we'll find a nice spot on the firewall, which I'm thinking will be right back here. That's a nice flat pad, and we'll get that thing mounted up. Got the FMU mounted in place. I think that worked well. Lines going through here, plenty of room, not interfering with anything, not hot. It's got enough slack to kind of move, so I'm happy with that. I'm going to upgrade this fitting to 5/16 and run it off of this port over here. That way it has a dedicated line to run that. I'm kind of out of ports in the back, and I don't want to tee into anymore because this thing's pretty critical. If it loses sensing vacuum or boost, then it can't manage the fuel injector. So we'll give it a dedicated line. I lucked out, and when doing this, you'll end up short of one of these clips for the fuel pressure line. But the intake, this 5.0 intake that I bought, or the Explorer one, came with the clips on the fuel rails, so I was happy with that. I don't have to buy extra ones. So moving on to the next step. So while I've got good access to it, I've cleaned the timing marks off the dampener. We'll have to retime the engine now that it's boosted. Factory is 10 degrees before top dead center, so we're going to go with Ford's instruction and back it off to 6. I don't know if we'll need to take it down any more than that, but we'll start there and see how it goes. So what I've done is just put a yellow line on the 6-degree mark, so it'll be easier to see that to time it later. And then when we test drive it and stuff, we'll see how it behaves if we need to back it off some more than that. But we'll use that as our starting point. I found a belt that fits this setup. It's 84¼ inches long. It was real tight to get on there. I had to pretty much pry it up over this, but it fits everything as is with the relocated alternator. I also shortened this bolt here that goes to the head. It was about a 1/2 inch too long. I had a spacer under it, which would have been fine, but it interfered with the belt. So with that, no longer interferes with the belt. So I think I'm about ready to take this off for the last time, snug everything up. I put a stud in here on the head. It makes putting this bracket on and off really easy because it gives me a place to at least set the whole bracket on, the whole system on, as I line up all the rest of the bolts. So I need to tighten that stud up into the head so it's permanent. I need to trim some metal underneath the alternator for where this shroud or the inner fender well goes underneath. It's going to kind of interfere with my alternator wire, so I'm going to trim that up a little bit, which shouldn't hurt anything. And then I think we'll be able to put this on for the last time, or last time, we'll see. But I think once we put it on again, I'll be able to move on to everything else. I'm working on my intake pipe to the air cleaner. The Supercharger came with a short little plastic elbow that goes, it's supposed to go underneath the, I would call that the charge pipe, whatever, the one that goes to the intake. So it's supposed to go under here and then come out and then into an air box over here. I don't have a lot of room. This fender well's kind of tight. I can cut all that stuff out, and I think there's plenty of space on the inside from the tire to do that. But for now, I decided to make a piece that comes up. Since I've got plenty of hood clearance under this, I can get away with that. I found the downpipe to my 7.3 2001 Ford with the 7.3 Power Stroke. I upgraded the exhaust on it a while back. Well, the downpipe's 3-inch, but it upsizes to go into the turbo. So I was able to just trim the ring off that for the V-band clamp. Once I trim that off, it actually fits on here just fine and downsizes it to 3-inch. I did have to clearance for my oil filler and then also the pipe that goes to the intake. So I just heated those up and just kind of ball peened them in. So that shouldn't hurt much, but allows me to actually take the cap off now. So I think that's going to be okay. I think. So now I'm getting into this piece. So I need to buy probably some 90s or something. But so I think this will work temporarily to get this thing working. just to test it out, and then I can come back later and come up with a cleaner setup or something, or if anything, probably a couple of shorter elbows to tighten this up, and then have the air cleaner box here. I think that's going to work. This thing's upside down right now, the math. I don't know if that matters. I did that because the plug is just barely going to reach where it is, which I can extend it, but I don't want to do anything major until I have to, because I'm just going to kind of get everything together and test it. And then if it doesn't work out, we'll come up with a different plan. But everything else is coming together fine. Of course, this piece is already made for this engine setup, so that went together just fine. Got good clearance. The pressure side of the pipe of the fuel injector rail is pretty tight against this. I might need to dent this tube out a little bit under here to clearance that, just so it's not pushing pressure on it. And then I think I need to reinstall the evap canister that was over here. And then I think we can start putting stuff back together on the front. I think that's where I'm at. So I'm going to work on this a little bit more, and of course clean that pipe out good, because it was an exhaust pipe. Now we're using it as an intake, so we don't want any garbage in there. But so I think that'll work. Running here. Let me take a look at this. Everything's looking okay as far as I can tell so far. Well, initial startup's good. It did still run again and didn't make any weird noises that I could tell. Oh, we do have a problem though. I'm seeing this belt is starting to creep off of that pulley already. So we've got alignment issues, which stinks. So let me see if I can figure out what's going on there. What I think is going on is this pulley here is now out of alignment. So I'm thinking I can maybe put a spacer or something behind this bracket and kick it that way a little bit. I'm not seeing anything else out of alignment, but I can see where that's definitely not hitting where it should. So maybe that's starting to walk the belt off. And that's where it was. It was kicked off here and down here. So that probably isn't too bad of a fix. So I'll dig into that. So I've made an adjustment to the tensioner pulley here. I've moved the pulley itself inward a hair. So I did that a combination of two ways. I adjusted the shims on the blower assembly bracket, took a couple washers out where it hooks to the water pump bolt. So I've moved that in, so that kind of adjusted it this way a little bit. And then I found another pulley that I bought a while back, a steel pulley, and I put it in the press and just slid the bearing a little bit deeper so that the pulley would offset. So that looks pretty good to me now. I think the belt's already ruined. It tried to cut this outer rib off, so it's curling here, but I don't think it's an alignment issue anymore. I think that's the belt failing now, because I can just, see, this one I can't fold over. This one I can fold over just with my finger. So I've got new belts coming just to swap this one out, but let's see if it wants to chuck it off of it again here. We'll fire it up for a second. Okay, that looks good. Let's hope that did it. It's looking fine. I mean, this doesn't look good, but again, I think it's just the belt being crappy. It looks fine everywhere else. So cross our fingers that when we put a new belt on there, it doesn't ruin anything. Oh, I also ordered a pulley here that has the shoulders on it. I haven't got it yet. We'll probably throw that on. The factory one did have that, but I broke this bolt off because it's reverse threaded. I didn't realize that at the time. So I snapped it off, and I think I chucked that pulley, not realizing that they're not, all the replacements come without the shoulders. So I ordered just the pulley. So we might put that one on when I get it. And that helps keep the belt aligned as well, too, as it travels through that long space there. I think that's quite a stretch of belt right there. So it'd probably be good to have a shoulder on this pulley, which the factory did. And I can't find the one I took off. I could replace the bearing in it. Just press the old one out and press a new one in. But I think I might have chucked it. I haven't found it yet. So anyway, new one on the way there. And let's keep trucking here. Got some vacuum line plumbing done. I've taken the feed line that was going to the FMU from the intake. It's a 5/16 line, and I've teed that here. So it still goes to the FMU, and then I've teed it to go to the boost gauge and then the bypass valve, which is down here. This may or may not be temporary. I've ordered a vacuum block so I can take these lines and make it look, clean it up a little nicer. This is definitely temporary. I've got it going inside the truck, and then I've got the boost gauge just zip tied to the wideband for now. I'll do a nicer job and mount it in another cup next to that one eventually. So we'll just do this to get it running. Not fancy, but that should be fine for now. Something I originally planned to do but didn't when I put the radiator shroud in was to split it so it's a two-piece, a top half and a bottom half that bolts together in the center. That way a person can take the top half off and or probably the bottom to get at the front of the engine easier without having to take the whole radiator and stuff out. So I'm going to go ahead and do that now. So we'll just split it here. I think I'll just have an overlapping tab that bolts the two top and bottom together like that. And I think that'll work. My guess is I'll probably have to deal with belts on this now that they got the supercharger on it. And that'll make it so I can hopefully get in and out of here without having to take the radiator out. I would think with the two-piece fan shroud, I could probably take the fan and everything out with just the top half of the shroud removed. So that's what I'm hoping for. And so we're going to get her done. Here's what I came up with. I just found a couple little straps that I had that already had holes drilled, and it's a heavier metal than the shroud is. So between these being bolted and I added holes top and bottom to the shroud where the split is, I think that will be just fine. I don't imagine the head of the bolt's going to interfere with the fan. I don't remember it being that close, but even if it is, I could probably bend this outward a hair for clearance, but I think we'll be okay. We'll know shortly. I'm going to take this apart, give this a quick squirt of paint, and then we'll set the radiator in, or put the lower fan shroud in and see if we can get it all put back together here. In my dry run here, it looks like I can put the radiator in and then slip that lower fan shroud under to get it to go in there. So I think what I'm going to do next is connect the radiator hose, or finish bolting in the radiator, connect the lower radiator hose, because that's a lot easier to do without the shroud. And then we'll see about putting the shroud back in and see how that goes. Okay, we're going to try my air vac refiller on this truck. So basically you hook this up to an air compressor and it pulls vacuum. It literally sucks all the air out of the system. And and then you shut it off and wait for a little bit, make sure that it doesn't lose vacuum, indicating a leak. And then you put your filler hose into like a 5-gallon bucket full of coolant. You need to make sure you have enough coolant during this entire process that you don't suck any air. So 5-gallon bucket, you don't want to use individual jugs because every time you pull it in and out, you're going to lose suction, and then you got to start over. So we'll do that. It's a good way to test to see if our system has any leaks. And the biggest advantage is it pulls coolant in, so you won't have any air pockets or anything, which can cause problems. I don't know on this engine if that they're prone to that, but I've had other ones that it takes quite a while to burp all the air out. You can overheat. Cherokee 4.0 Cherokees are kind of known for that. It's kind of hard to burp all the air out of the little pockets and stuff inside the engine. So these are nice for that. You pull vacuum, suck the coolant in, then you don't have to worry about burping the system. So we'll give this a try. Engine is all full of coolant. I will admit I didn't get the 24 pounds of vacuum that I'm needing, and when I closed it to see if there was a leak, it did lose vacuum. So we've got a coolant leak somewhere. We'll worry about that later. It's pretty hard to track a coolant leak listening for vacuum sucking. It's not really a thing. So if I'm not able to find it, obviously I'll, if it's not obvious when I'm looking for it, I will put a Schrader valve into this and put like 10 or 12 PSI in the system, and then usually you can find a leak that way, but I'm not too worried about that. We got coolant in it. Now I need to work on plumbing the bypass valve right here back into the intake side of the turbo. So I know I've said blow off valve once in a while, but it's not. This is a bypass valve. They're different. And this can't be vented to the atmosphere. It needs to go back in to the intake so that it's metered air, and that should help the engine from not surging and acting too weird as it comes back through the mass airflow sensor. So I've got just an iron fitting here, plumbing fitting. So I'll take this, find a good spot between those two, between the bypass and that elbow, just to weld this thing in, and then we'll screw in this, or a straight fitting. I've got this hose here, and it's not very pliable, so I need to make sure that I try to get it as straight as possible, or if it does have to turn, I need a decent radius. So I'll figure out where I want to put that, and we'll get a hole cut in it and get it welded in there. not the prettiest looking thing, but I think it'll work. It should go in there just like so. So I'm going to get this painted up inside and out, since I don't think I'll need to take it off again. I don't think. Yeah, I might have to. I need to plumb. No, I think that's it. So we'll get it painted up and get it mocked up there and see if we can get the bypass valve hooked up to it. I think I'm to the point we can try firing it up again. I got the stock airbox back on there for now. I'm not sure what I'm going to do for an air cleaner. These flow a lot of air. I think you can make 400 plus horse with the factory foxbody airbox. I've got a cone filter as well. I might use that. I think my goal will be to get some kind of cold air set up for it. Try to channel some air in here. So it might be a cone filter with a sheet metal block so I can suck the air from in front of the radiator and the grill here. But we'll worry about that later. I've got the MAF clocked, 90 degrees. It should be on top, I think, is stock, but my wires aren't long enough. So we'll try it like that. We've got the bypass valve plumbed in down there. And then it's all hooked up. So I think we'll see how it runs. I haven't done anything with the crankcase breather yet, but that's not a big deal. So let's fire it up and see what it does or does not do. All right, so I'm super happy about that. It's started right up. It's idling normal. Throttle response seems normal. So still haven't adjusted the timing yet, and it's going to need premium fuel at some point. So I think the next step will be to let it just idle for a while, let everything warm up, and then we'll adjust the timing. I haven't put the fan shroud on back on yet, but it's should be fine to run it like this for a little bit, just for testing and tuning the hood. I'm going to leave the hood off for a bit. So yeah, let's get it running for a little bit, and we'll dink with the timing. Hopefully I can actually see the timing mark from the front. I haven't checked that out, but I hope so.
I'm not sure what this little doodad is, but it has to be unplugged when you're timing these fox body 5 levers.
I'm not sure how many of you watching this remember the magazine or the store named J.C. Whitney. So I bought this timing light when I was in high school in the 90s, and it still works. Some of the stuff you bought from that place was junk. Other stuff wasn't too bad, but this timing light's done me well so far. I've taken care of it. It's not super bright, but it's always gotten the job done. I missed that magazine. I can't tell you how many hours I spent looking through that when I was a kid. All the automotive accessories you could buy. I swear you could buy a complete like CJ2A or whatever it was. They sold like everything Jeep parts. I don't know if the company's still around, but I imagine it's not the same paper print type magazine and parts that it used to be. But anyway, I just thought that was kind of funny. I haven't used this thing for quite a while, so it's kind of fun to drag it back out.
All right, we're gonna go get some gas. Hopefully we don't break it. Oh, we should probably put our seatbelts on. Okay. Put your seatbelt on. Safety first. We might get in a fender bender. Okay, ready? Yeah. Still run. We ended up not siphoning any fuel out. I couldn't get my siphon hose into it, so we'll just go as is. Watch out, dog. I'll run you over. Premium. Nothing but the good stuff for this thing from now on. Supercharger needs 91 or better. So we'll go give her what she needs. We got to drive easy on it for 50 miles or so. Get our supercharger broke in a little bit more. Seems to be running okay so far. I mean, it's not doing anything weird. Yep. Which is very nice. Weird driving without a hood on it. It's like when we first got it going, remember? You're driving around without a hood on it. I can't believe how quiet the supercharger is. Normally they're really noisy, which honestly I would prefer noise. I like that gear whine, but that's alright. Maybe we'll upgrade down the road a straight cut supercharger or something, but for now, this will do. Nice.
We go out to the other gas station.
Nah, we'll just put fuel in it from here to be fine. Oh, made it this far. That's good. All right. Get some gas in her.
All right, we made it back safe and sound from our test drive and getting some fuel. I wasn't able to get the old gas siphoned out like I was hoping. My fuel siphon hose wouldn't fit down the neck, so that's fine. We'll just keep mixing it in there or keep putting premium in it. We'll get that squared away. Ran great. The only problem we run into is rolling up to a stop sign, idles down and dies. And then you got to kind of hit the gas kind of hard, like the throttle body stuck, slammed shut. And then once you kind of pop the accelerator pedal, it opens back up, and then it's fine after that. So I'll look at adjusting that. Otherwise, it ran good. It'll start right back up again when that happens. So otherwise, it ran good. We just are driving it lightly for a while until we get this thing broke in. We won't get on it until put another 50 miles or so on it. But I'm super happy. Everything's going good. It sounds good. No weird noises. The belts are staying on it, which is nice. Other than that throttle issue, I think we're in good shape. So I think we'll wrap this up for now. Next episode, we'll adjust the throttle, maybe get that boost gauge mounted. I need to do a more permanent airbox, get it broke in, and then we'll go see what kind of improvement this has made. I can already tell just driving around, even driving lightly. Of course, I haven't driven it since I put the intake manifold on either. So it's got a new intake manifold, and a new supercharger. So it's going to make a noticeable improvement when I actually get on it. So anyway, thanks for watching. Hit that like and subscribe button if you don't mind, and we will catch you later. Thanks.